Rankings. When was the last time I did a good opening gag? Does anyone remember? 'Cause I don't. Okay. In a recognition of the first trailer coming out for The Batman, which may even eventually get finished shooting at some point once its leads get over the plague, I thought, you know what? I think it's finally time for me to pull the trigger on something I've been thinking about for a while, which is to rank all the Batman movies. Now, as soon as I say that, I need to qualify it. I am only going to be ranking theatrically released films. And to be clear, a theatrical release, it needs a proper widescreen release. They needed to have actually intended to people go, hey, let's go to the movie theater and see X. So I know for things like Killing Joke and a few other things, they had like limited 1 or 2 night Phantasm event sponsored things. Yeah, no, that doesn't count. So none of that is included. Also, not any movie in which Batman appears counts. So, he technically appeared in Suicide Squad. That's not a Batman movie. He needs to be one of the major characters, not necessarily the major character, but he needs to be one of the people who is moving the plot forward for me to count it as a Batman movie. So, by the measures that I have put forward, I've got 12 movies to rank. Let's do it. Starting with, naturally, number 12, Batman and Robin. Yeah, let's just get the obvious one out of the way right away. The thing is, I've tried to be kinder to this with time, and I've tried to give it a fair shake. Being older and getting over, the whole, if it's not dark, it's not a real movie nonsense kind of stuff that was cluttering up my headspace back when the thing came out originally. But even if I account for the fact that it is deliberately trying to be campy, it's still painful. It still doesn't work. It still doesn't pull it off. I get what it's trying to do, but what it's trying to do is not fun. It's not enjoyable. It still doesn't work. So even by the measure of adjusting myself to try and get on its wavelength, I still can't stand this movie. Number 11. Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. I'm sorry, it's just a mess. Now, that being said, Batman himself is actually one of the highlights of the movie. The performance overall feels a heck of a lot more thought out than a lot of what was done with Superman or Lex Luthor. And also he's the highlight in terms of the action scenes. So I would say Batman is one of the stronger elements of a film that it's a mess. I'm not going to sit here and crap all over the thing and say it has no redeeming features. It does. It has some cool moments. It has some cool beats, but it's nonsense. I'm sorry. It just is. It barely makes any sense. It overcomplicates everything it does to the point where even if I can make sense of it, I still don't understand why you would do it the way that this movie did it. Number 10. The Dark Knight Rises. This is one that has been steadily dropping in my estimation basically since 2 weeks after it came out. It's just kind of a damp squib of a movie. It just doesn't land, especially coming off the film that preceded it. And granted, there's a lot that it couldn't help. I'm pretty sure they would have liked to have had Heath Ledger back to be in this thing, but that wasn't going to happen. But this take on Bane is not particularly interesting. The twist at the end just doesn't land at all. The whole thing that they do with Batman in terms of having him retire, but then he's not retired and now he's back. But so Gotham got on top of everything, except it's somehow still a powder keg. It doesn't feel thought out nearly on the level that the other Nolan movies do. And it's just... I came away going, I guess that was pretty good, but every day that I've thought about it since then, it just keeps dropping. Number 9. This one might get me in trouble. I'm not sure. Actually, this one and the next one might get me in trouble. Batman Returns. Here's the thing. I don't think Batman Returns is a bad movie. It's actually, depending on what measure you're going to use, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good Tim Burton movie. It's not a good Batman movie. And I'm not even talking about the basics of like, oh, it messes with the origins of, where Penguin came from and how Catwoman, like, I don't care about the messing with the lore or the origins. The characters are unrecognizable in behavior, in the way that they are at all. Like, even Bane in the previous one, I could still see the thread from where he came from in the comics. But like here, you just picked two actors from the time, made one look like a monster and slapped another one in a fetish outfit. That's Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of a seminal part of my young years then. But ultimately, this thing just doesn't hold together. Number 8, Justice League. This is the other one that's going to get me in trouble. No, I'm not saying Justice League is good. And yes, I am talking about the theatrical release because nobody's seen the Snyder Cut yet, aside from Snyder, in theory. Well, except even he hasn't because he needs more money to finish the dang thing. But anyways, I had fun with this movie. Now, I will readily grant a pretty big part of that was lowered expectations. It's probably the same basis on which I actually kind of had fun watching The Rise of Skywalker. Doesn't mean that was a good movie. Doesn't mean Justice League's a good movie. But I did just have more fun with it. I enjoyed the lighter vibe. I really thought that Henry Cavill was great as Superman in this, when he sure as heck didn't click with me in the other ones. He is actually really, really good playing a Superman who smiles. Crazy notion. He's a really good fit for that. I'm not saying you can't do Superman the way that they did him in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, but I am saying that, Henry Cavill was not as good as that version as he was in this. Now, I'm talking about Superman. This is supposed to be a list of Batman. Batman himself in this, he's not the highlight the way he was in Batman v Superman. So this is a case where his actual contribution, not what I'd consider one of the stronger elements of the film, but he's in it. I have fun with it in a way that I can't actually concretely defend, but I just kind of shrug and go, I thought it was okay. Number 7, Batman Forever. This is where we start getting into the movies that I will actually legitimately go to bat for. Oh, God. That was an unintended pun. But Batman Forever, the first Joel Schumacher movie, I think is pretty good. It's very visually stylized, but in a way that has not gone completely off the rails, the way Batman and Robin later would. I honestly think that Jim Carrey is a good pick for the Riddler. Yes, he's doing Jim Carrey and kind of his stock character, but he works. He works for a kind of bonkers, slightly off his rocker, manic version of the Riddler. It's a good fit. The main thing dragging this down, though, is, if I'm being honest, Val Kilmer is pretty wooden, so that doesn't help. But honestly, my big complaints in this are Two-Face and Tommy Lee Jones. And I normally love Tommy Lee Jones, but he clearly didn't get this character, nor did the writers, nor did the director. They just put him in, basically because they were running out of other big-name villains to put in. So they said, we'll do Two-Face. And we'll have him flip a coin. Well, yeah, but is he actually going to adhere to the coin? No, he'll keep flipping it until he gets the result he wants. That's not Two-Face. Yeah, that drags it down a bit. I won't defend Two-Face. I will defend the rest of this movie, though. Number 6, Batman Begins. Christopher Nolan came out swinging in this one. Not going to lie. There is just a lot to love. The amount of attention paid to what would go into Batman just taking on the mantle. What did he go through? What did he put himself through to get from being Bruce Wayne, hurt, injured, angry young man, to Batman? hurt, angry, injured young man with a bucket on his head. But it's a really cool journey, and it was a nice dive into it, and it made that journey interesting so that you weren't sitting there the whole time going, when's he going to be Batman? When's he going to be Batman? Instead, you're going, ooh, this is really cool. It's going to be even cooler when I get to see him as Batman. So that worked really well. I really do enjoy this take on Scarecrow. I think he's really solid. There are a number of things bringing it down, though. The fight scenes, honestly, are one of them. The fight scenes are very poorly shot. They're too tight. They're too cut heavy. You can't tell what the heck is going on. But for the most part, this does pull together really well. There's also a little bit of nonlinear storytelling, and I'm not sure why, other than Nolan kind of just tends to do that a lot of the time. And by this point, it was just kind of a signature thing that he did. But it is just a good film looking at the origins of Batman. Number 5. Another possibly controversial one. We'll find out. Batman, the one based off the 1966 TV show. I won't lie, a lot of this is nostalgia. I grew up watching this movie. I didn't really watch the show. It was in reruns when I was a kid, but I didn't really watch it. But I did watch this, and I rewatched it. I watched it a lot, and it's just so fun. This is what Batman and Robin wanted and completely failed to be. Because, yes, it's campy. Yes, it's over the top, but everybody who's in it has a sincerity. They deliver jokes, but they aren't talking like there's going to be a rim shot right after they speak. It's just got this perfect blend of earnestness and ridiculousness. And I'm sorry, all these performances are great. You have a great Catwoman, a great Penguin, a great Joker. I would argue the best Riddler. There have been some great Riddlers. I love the Riddler from Gotham, but Frank Gorshin as the Riddler, mwah, beautiful. And Adam West just owns as Batman. Look, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb, but this movie's not a bomb. This movie rocks. Number 4, Batman from 1989. Again, this is probably in a large part nostalgia. I will own up to that. It's my list. I can use whatever criteria I want. I probably can't completely defend this versus, say, Batman Begins as being a better movie if someone really wanted to back me against the wall. But I enjoy this more. I grew up on this movie. Michael Keaton is my favorite live-action Batman. I think that Jack Nicholson was a terrific version for Mobster Joker. He's great. He owns that part really, really well. There is just a great layering of a certain amount of camp. I would say largely brought on by Nicholson himself. And then Tim Burton's dark aesthetic, where it's not drowning out the fun the way that it did in Batman Returns. Here it is both fun and dark. It's a wonderful balance that Tim Burton wasn't able to find again, and arguably the franchise itself never quite hit again in the exact same way. Number 3, Lego Batman. I'm serious. This is not a joke. Lego Batman gets who Batman is, gets what his damage is, what his baggage is. It's presenting it humorously. Yes. It's making fun of him. Yes. But the people who wrote and directed this, they understand who Batman is. Because the people who are best equipped to make fun of something are the people who love it and know it inside and out, and they totally do in this. And it is making fun of Batman's whole self-serious thing, especially the way Batman had been for the last few decades in films up to that point. It's so wonderful to see this light, bouncy, energetic Robin thrust onto him and just sort of crowbar his way into his life, and Batman's like, ugh, no, I'm not going to smile. You can't make me. Kind of attitude. It's so terrific. And at the same time, honestly, quite poignant. the way he pushes people away, the way he won't let himself care. That's actually mined for some legitimately good stuff at the tail end. The only reason that this doesn't go higher, if I'm being honest, is I don't super love this Joker. He's written well and he's utilized pretty well, but I don't particularly love the vocal performance. Zach Galifianakis was fine. He wasn't great, but he was fine. But it's just so fun and funny and quotable. Oh, wow, is this movie ever quotable? From Killer Croc going, I did something, to Bane getting decked by Batman for no reason and going, that was unnecessary. Oh, it's so much fun. Number 2, The Dark Knight. Let's not kid ourselves. Heath Ledger owns this movie. He just completely rules the roost the entire run of this thing. There's a reason the movie opens on him. He is the driving force behind the story, behind the film. It's just hypnotic and mesmerizing to watch him just dance nonsensically around all these people who are trying to figure him out and think sensibly, and he's having none of that. He clearly has a plan, but does it follow any logic that any other person who makes this kind of plan would ever have? Probably not. It's so fantastic. And as much as, Heath Ledger goes to the top of the list for the reasons this is great, a bunch of other great stuff too. Gordon's great. Harvey Dent's great. And Alfred's great. Even Rachel Dawes, despite the fact that she gets damseled and then fridged, I do think that there is still a good chemistry and a good use of the character while she is in it. The main thing that kept this from the number 1 spot, honestly, was the Two-Face plot gets wrapped up kind of hastily at the tail end. In many ways, the Joker hanging upside down is the release following the climax of the film. The climax was building up to the boat explosion, and then the Joker hanging upside down, monologuing at Batman. That's our okay, cool down from that. But then we've got this other thing that keeps going, and it loses momentum a bit. And I think the movie knows that, and that's why it rushes through the Two-Face stuff at the tail end, which is pretty much the only thing keeping it from the number 1 spot. But if you know your Batman movies, you already know what the number 1 is. Number 1 is Batman Mask of the Phantasm, which at this point, it's not even that controversial to call it the best Batman film, because people who are open to animation, they know that this is the best Batman film. I've had nitpicks, at least, about everything else on this list. I have no notes, no complaints, nothing I'd change, nothing I'd tweak, nothing I would expand. It is perfectly tailored for what it wants to do. From the new characters introduced to the elements of Batman's backstory and the flashbacks we get in us to learn what he went through, not in terms of training the way Batman begins, but what he went through emotionally to become Batman, to really resonate with this idea of he has assumed since his parents died that he would never be happy, and the idea that he might be happy is actually kind of traumatic for him. And the first putting on of the mask is not triumphant, it's a tragedy. Because this is not a happy life for him. This is an animated film, and it knows Batman to the core. And it's got a stellar voice cast across the board. They're all amazing. And of course, Mark Hamill's Joker makes an appearance in this. Doesn't even show up until halfway in, but he's well integrated into the story, and it's a brilliant vocal performance. And it's all just perfect. I would not change a lick of this thing. That's why it gets my number 1 spot for the best Batman movie. Where will the Batman land on this? I don't know. We'll find out when I eventually see it. But what is your ranking? If you don't feel like doing all 12, or if you haven't seen some of them, what's your top 5? Top 3? How wrong am I? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. All the usual stuff to do, you know what it is. Like, share, subscribe. I have a Patreon, naturally, of course, and that helps keep the lights on and keeps this entire operation up and running because it's what's paying my bills right now. So that helps, but all the other stuff does as well. There's links to things down in the description, including a Kickstarter for my novel. So check all those things out, or don't. If you don't feel like it, that's all right too. Because end of the day, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.